My wife compared me to her friend's perfect husband. My comparison made her perfectly single. She wanted perfection, got perfect karma instead. Update 3. That's when she made the comment that sealed her fate completely. She looked directly at me and said that she hoped I was finally starting to understand what she'd been trying to teach me all month. She said that maybe now I could see the difference between a real marriage and what we'd been settling for. The table went quiet. His wife looked absolutely horrified that her marriage had been used this way. Her husband looked like he wanted to disappear, but my wife was still smiling, thinking she'd finally made her point effectively in front of witnesses who could confirm her teaching methods. I set down my fork very carefully and looked around the table. I thanked her for being so honest about her feelings toward our marriage. I told her that her month of comparisons had definitely taught me something important about what she really thought of me as a husband. Then I turned to our guests and apologized for putting them in this awkward position. I explained that they'd been invited here under false pretenses, and that they deserved to know what was really happening before the evening went any further. I told them that my wife had spent the past month systematically comparing every aspect of our marriage to theirs, and that tonight was supposed to be the culmination of her efforts to remake me into a better husband. I said that she'd been using their relationship as proof that I was failing as a man and as a partner. The silence at that table was deafening. His wife looked like she might cry from embarrassment. Her husband was staring at his plate, clearly wishing he was anywhere else. But my wife was starting to realize that her teaching moment was turning into something completely different. I wasn't done yet. I told our guests that I'd learned something very important from my wife's comparisons and that it was only fair to share my conclusions with everyone at the table. After all, if we were going to discuss marriage standards openly, everyone deserved to participate in the conversation. My wife's face was starting to show the first signs of panic. She was beginning to understand that her perfect dinner party was about to become something she hadn't planned for. But it was too late to stop what she'd started. She'd wanted a public demonstration of proper marriage behavior, and she was about to get exactly that. I looked directly at my wife, and smiled with the kind of calm that comes right before a storm. She was sitting there, fork halfway to her mouth, starting to realize that her carefully orchestrated evening was about to take a turn she hadn't anticipated. I spoke clearly, making sure everyone at the table could hear every word. I told her that she was absolutely right about everything she'd been saying for the past month. Her friend's husband was indeed perfect. He was thoughtful, romantic, successful, and everything that a modern woman could want in a partner. Her face lit up for just a moment, thinking I was finally acknowledging her teaching methods in front of witnesses. She actually smiled at our guests as if to say that her husband was finally learning his lesson. Then I continued. I agreed that she deserved to have a perfect husband just like her friend did. Every woman should be married to someone who meets all of her standards and expectations. No woman should have to settle for less than what she considers ideal in a marriage partner. The relief on her face was visible. She thought I was building up to some grand gesture of commitment to change. Some promise to transform myself into her vision of the perfect husband. Our guests were looking between us, clearly uncomfortable, but not sure how to escape the situation. I leaned back in my chair and let the moment hang in the air for just a few seconds. Then I delivered the line that would end everything between us. I told her that there was just one small problem with her plan for me to become more like her friend's perfect husband. Her friend's husband was already married to her friend, which meant he wasn't available to be anyone else's perfect husband. The smile disappeared from her face instantly. She could sense that something was wrong with the direction this conversation was taking, but she couldn't quite grasp what was happening yet. I continued with the same calm tone. I explained that since she'd made it very clear that I would never measure up to her standards, and since she deserved to have the kind of perfect marriage that she'd been describing to me every day for a month, I had come up with the perfect solution to our problem. I was going to set her free to find her own perfect husband. Someone exactly like her friend's husband but available. Someone who could give her everything that I apparently couldn't provide. Someone who would appreciate having such a discerning woman who knew exactly what she wanted from a marriage. The table went completely silent. Our guests were staring at their plates, clearly wishing they could disappear. My wife's mouth was opening and closing, but no words were coming out. She was starting to understand what was happening, but she couldn't quite believe it yet. I turned to our guests and thanked them for their patience with our domestic discussion. I explained that they'd accidentally become part of my wife's month-long educational campaign about marriage standards, and that tonight was supposed to be my graduation ceremony from inadequate husband to acceptable partner. But instead I told them tonight was going to be my wife's liberation ceremony. After weeks of explaining to me why I wasn't good enough for her, I was finally ready to agree with her assessment and take action accordingly. Now you can watch the fourth part by pressing share and more.